Those clear factual disparities between the Brennan response and the Panetta review, committee staff grew concerned that the CIA was knowingly providing inaccurate information to the committee in the present day, which is a serious offense and a deeply troubling matter for the committee, the Congress, the White House, and our country. The Panetta review was evidence of that potential offense. So in order to preserve that evidence, committee staff securely transported a printed portion of the Panetta review from the CIA leased facility to the committee's secure offices in the Senate. This was the proper and right thing to do, not only because of the seriousness of the potential crime, but also in light of the fact that the CIA had previously destroyed interrogation videotapes without authorization and over objections of officials in the Bush White House. In my view, the Panetta review is a smoking gun. It raises fundamental questions about why a review of the CIA conducted internally years ago and never provided to the committee is so different from the official Brennan response and so different from the public statements of former CIA officials. That's why I asked for a complete copy of the Panetta review at a December 2013 intelligence. Although the committee now has a portion of the review already in its possession, I believe then, as I do now, that it is important to make public its existence and to obtain a full copy of the report. And that's why I'm here today, to disclose some of its key findings and conclusions on the Senate floor for the public record, which fly directly in the face of claims made by senior CIA officials past and present. For example, as I mentioned earlier, on a number of key matters, the Panetta review directly refutes information in the Brennan response. And in the few instances in which the Brennan response acknowledges imprecision or mischaracterization relative to the detention and interrogation program, the Panetta review is refreshingly free of excuses, qualifications, or caveats. The Panetta review found that the CIA repeatedly provided inaccurate information to the Congress, the President, and the public on the efficacy of its coercive techniques. The Brennan response, in contrast, continues to insist the CIA's interrogations produced unique intelligence that saved lives. Yet the Panetta review identifies dozens of documents that include inaccurate information used to justify the use of torture and indicates that the inaccuracies it identifies do not represent an exhaustive list. The Panetta review further describes how detainees provided intelligence prior to the use of torture against them. Prior to the use of the torture against them. It describes how the CIA, contrary to its own representations, often tortured detainees before trying any other approach. It describes how the CIA tortured detainees even when less coercive methods were yielding intelligence. The Panetta review further identifies cases in which the CIA used coercive techniques when it had no basis for determining whether a detainee had critical intelligence at all. In other words, CIA personnel tortured detainees to confirm they didn't have intelligence, not because they thought they did. Again, while a small portion of this review is preserved in our committee spaces, I've requested the full document, a request that's been denied by Director Brennan. And I will tell you, the Panetta review is much more than a summary and incomplete drafts, which is the way Mr. Brennan and former CIA officials have characterized it in order to minimize its significance. I've reviewed this document, and it is significant and relevant as it gets. The refusal to provide the full Panetta review and the refusal to acknowledge facts detailed in both the committee study and the Panetta review lead to one disturbing finding. Director Brennan and the CIA today are continuing to willfully provide inaccurate information and misrepresent the efficacy of torture. In other words, the CIA is lying. This is not a problem of the past, Madam President, but a problem that needs to be dealt with today. Let me turn to the search of Intelligence Committee's computers. Clearly, the present leadership of the CIA agrees with me that the Panetta Review is a smoking gun. That's the only explanation for the CIA's unauthorized search of the committee's dedicated computers in January. The CIA's illegal search was conducted out of concern that the committee staff was provided with the Panetta Review, and it demonstrates how far the CIA will go to keep its secrets safe. Instead of just asking the committee if it had access to the Panetta Review, the CIA searched without authorization or notification the committee computers that the agency had agreed were off limits. And in so doing, the agency may have violated multiple provisions of the Constitution, as well as federal criminal statutes and Executive Order 12333. More troubling, despite admitting behind closed doors to the committee that the CIA conducted the search, Director Brennan publicly referred to, quote, spurious allegations about CIA actions that are wholly unsupported by the facts. He even said that such allegations of computer hacking were beyond, quote, the scope of reason, end quote. The CIA then made a criminal referral to the Department of Justice against the committee staff who were working on the study. Chairman Feinstein believed these actions were an effort to intimidate the committee staff, the very staff charged with CIA oversight, and I strongly agree with her point of view. The CIA's Inspector General subsequently opened an investigation into the CIA's unauthorized search and found, contrary to Director Brennan's public protestations, that a number of CIA employees did, in fact, improperly access the committee's dedicated computers. The investigation found no basis for the criminal referral on the committee staff. The IG also found that the CIA personnel involved demonstrated a, quote, lack of candor about their activities to the Inspector General. However, only a one-page unclassified summary of the IG's report is publicly available. The longer classified version was only provided briefly to members when it was first released, and I had to push hard to get the CIA to provide a copy to the committee to keep in its own records. Even the copy in committee records is restricted to committee members and only 2 staff members, not including my staff member. After having reviewed the IG report myself again recently, I believe even more strongly that the full report should be declassified and publicly released, in part because Director Brennan still refuses to answer the committee's questions about the search.